Hey warriors, I hope you're all doing great. So, yes, a couple of weeks ago, we had done the paper review of the CA Inter September 2025 examinations, which was conducted for paper number 3A, income tax. Now, that video received a lot of good responses, so thank you for that. But at the same time, I also received a few feedbacks on the kind of mistakes that happened in the paper. Yes, now these mistakes can be of two types. One, maybe a mistake from my side because I did not read this properly. And yes, mistake number two, there were some errors in the paper as well. A lot of students have been reaching out to me and asking me to put a video clarifying these few things. So I wanted to do this video for all of you. But before I proceed forward itself, I would like to give you a clarification. Let me make it extremely clear to all of you that regardless of whether that video or this video, the answers are not important right now. You've already tried your level best at the examination front, and therefore this is already done from your side. You don't need to sit and dwell upon it once again and focus more on what is coming up in the next. You don't know what is going to happen right now, people, and therefore that blindness is already good enough for you. Please trust what is your strategy right now. Your efforts which you've already put across is already gone to ICA. ICA is going to take in cognizance of those efforts and give you what you deserve for the examinations. Yes, if there are mistakes in the ICA paper, then definitely there will be an opportunity for them to make some corrections and give you grace marks as well. But that's not something which you and I can discuss and deliberate about. It's no point panicking at this stage and trying to filter out as to what is going to happen. If you think that you have extremely not performed to the satisfaction, then continue studying for the Jan 26 examinations as a safety caution. But that does not mean that you should start introspecting yourself and waste the time which you have right now. You already have spent a good amount of 6 months preparing for the subject, people, and the next 1 month is all the deserving efforts, is all the deserving break that you're going to get for yourself. So continue to enjoy this break to the best extent possible. Don't over dwell upon it, is what my small request to all of you would be. Clear? Yes. With that, I'm going to show you what and all changes which we need to consider before we move forward on the review paper of it. So let's go forward one by one. First is on the question number 2. Now, this was a question which was relating to residential status, people, and if you remember this question carefully, we had made a conclusion on this question. We had come and said that the person not visiting India at all during the previous year is going to be called as an NR. Yes, is going to be called as an NR, whereas on the other contrary side, we started calling the other two people. We started calling, no, sorry, this was other way around. We started calling the first person as RNOR, and we called the second person as also RNOR, while the third person was agreed to be an NR. That is what we had agreed upon in this answer. Yes, unfortunately, people, there was a mistake from my side to read the question. While I was hurried on the fact that I was trying to clarify that it's more than 120 days, and I assumed it the second question to be R and OR. I did not realize the fact that this has now become 200 days. With the consideration becoming 200 days itself, people, there is no point of you coming and focusing on R and OR conditions. If you remember the master chart that we prepared, we had clarified that the moment you're crossing 182 days, you're automatically a resident here. You're automatically a resident here. And here is the part which says this person has been visiting 200 days every single year. The moment the person has been visiting 200 days every single year, for the last 7 years, the number becomes 1400 days. And at the same time, because the person is 200 days every year, every single year, the person is going to be an R resident. Yes, with that understanding, both the exceptions of R and OR are not getting satisfied, which means the answer to this should unfortunately not be R and OR, but should be ROR. ROR. This is one mistake which happened from my side, and I'm apologetic about this. You should read the facts that it is in 200 days every year condition, which means more than 182 days automatically becomes liable for a resident condition. And with that scenario, because it's going to happen every single year, he is going to become an ROR. With the ROR conditions being satisfied, people, every income that is given here is going to be fully taxable. The remuneration of 16 lakhs is also taxable. The 5 lakh rupees from a foreign person is also taxable. The 8 lakh rupees is also fully taxable, and the 7 lakh also is fully taxable, which means you simply have to take all the 4 into consideration and give a deduction accordingly. Yes, so it's 16 plus 5, which is 21, 21 plus 8 is 29, and 29 plus 7 becomes 36 lakhs. At any point of time, if I notice this, people, the income from business is given to me, dividends is also given to me. I have income from accounting services, which means no ATTT or TTV and all is to be given. This is the number. You can take the number directly and you can tax it accordingly. Yes. So adjustment change in point number 2, people, it is an ROR condition. Clear? Yes. Great. Second was on the question number 3. Now, there was a question number 3, people, which was about question number 3A, talking about capital gains. We had discussed this question in length and I had given you a complete format. There is only one small mistake. Honestly, this is mistake which I feel I have not made, but the mistake which ICA has made, people. A very, very weird way of giving the adjustment is what has happened. Notice this line carefully. It says, advise money as to which option has, no, give me 1 second. Yes, so this line is basically coming and saying, on the assumption that he has no other income chargeable to tax and has not opted out of provisions of 115 BAC and has not opted out of provisions of 115 BAC. Now, this is something which is very surprising to me, people. We have discussed this in the class also, where I've come and told you the understanding between DTR and ATR is as follows. When the question says the person is paying tax as per DTR, you go for DTR. Whereas when the question wants to say that you have to opt for ATR, they will say the person is opting out of default tax regime. Here is a scenario where they're saying the person is not opting out of default tax regime, which means this is an adjustment of DTR. This is an adjustment of DTR. Now, in all practical sense, if you come and ask me, this English is wrong. This English is wrong. Writing an adjustment like this is very confusing and should have not been done by ICA. This is not ethical from their side. This is not the way to approach it. It's very clear, people, from a practical perspective itself, when a question has to be tested, or let's say not a question, from a practical perspective itself, when a person is deciding his fate, he will say that yes, if I'm in DTR, I will be in DTR. Let's proceed there. But if I'm going to go to ATR, I'm going to file a form and I'm going to opt out. That is all that he's going to do. No person in the practical world is going to tell, I am deciding not to not opt out. Yes or no? Yes, it is weird to come and say double nots. When you say deciding not to opt out, it's basically coming and saying they didn't DTR. But a person would never talk that way. A person would simply come and say, if I'm deciding to not opt out, it is as if I'm coming and saying, I am opting DTR. Yes, that is how you should have drafted this law. So writing a provision like this is extremely confusing and should unfortunately not have been done by ICA. They should have not done it this way. But nevertheless, people, if I'm strictly reading what has been given in the law, you have to understand the fact that it says it is not opting out, which means the person is going for DTR. With that, there is only one change which is going to happen. The basic exemption limit, which we had earlier computed for 2,50,000, is now going to become 3 lakh. That is the only change which you're going to make, people, which means to the extent of the tax liability that we computed, an additional 50,000 will not be taxable for income tax purposes. So to that extent alone, you have to make that small modification when you find out your suggested answers of. Yes, I'm really hoping to see how the suggested answers will come out. And if ICA does come with the fact saying that I've showed it is not opting out, which means they have chosen DTR, this is going to be very, very wrong from their side. You should have ideally not done that, which is wrong. But nevertheless, people, for your exam preparation strategies, if you are a Jan 26 students and you're preparing the exam, reading the verbally English, I would say this is something to be done in DTR regime. We are still waiting and watching on how the suggested answers will come out, and then we can decide on what the right conclusion on this answer would be. Last is what I am also particularly surprised about. This is something which even I did not notice, but a student came to me and I'm very thankful for that student to come back and let me know. It's a very weird way of reading it, people. Read this line carefully. It says, updated return under 139A cannot not be filed if the original return is a loss. Cannot not be filed if the original return is a loss. Now, this is something which I've never seen in life, people. Question, if I have to understand this, would come and say, an updated return cannot be filed if the return is a loss. And that is what we discussed of. We said answer is no. We said answer is no, because even if the return is lost, you can still file an updated return when it is converted into an income. Yes, so you'll still be able to file an updated return because that is what the answer would be. But now the question says cannot not be filed. Cannot not be filed. When you say cannot not be filed, you're talking do double negatives. You're talking double negatives, which means you're saying it does not say that you cannot file. And therefore, the answers could probably be true here, because then you can come and say cannot not be filed means you are giving me an option to file. And that is what the right answer is. You can file an updated return when the loss converts itself into an income. However, English like this is horribly wrong. This is completely wrong from the part of ICA to give you adjustments like this. Giving cannot not is a weird way of putting it out, people. I have never seen in English itself like that. A template English format cannot be like that. My assumption would be that the person who was typing this question paper unfortunately did not realize that he has ended up putting up 2 knots, and ICA also ended up publishing this question paper as it is. Yes, which means the answer to this question, if you ignore the knot, is going to be false, whereas if you take the knot into consideration, then the answer is going to be true. Then the answer is going to be true, and therefore both the adjustments look right in this. Now, I have had an experience like this in the past, people, where ICI has made a mistake like this, and the suggested answers in those days basically came up with an understanding that they put an asterisk mark and then on the bottom they said the knot has to be ignored. That is how I have seen normally ICI do this. Yes, but that's very unpractical from the ICS perspective, because the student who reached out to me unfortunately ended up putting a true on this, and that's wrong, because at the end of the day, if he has put a true and if ICA later says no, not should be ignored off, therefore the answer is false, the student ends up losing marks. In which case, my only small request is ICA should consider both the alternatives as right, because it's all about reading it. As a faculty, even when I was reading it, ignoring double knots is not something I did. I would also read the lines very carefully, because my understanding would be when you talk about updated return, a loss should be allowed as updated return if you can make it into an income. So reading a double knot is something which even I would as a faculty not have done, and therefore I don't expect students in the verge of an exam when they're already stressed out to realize these minute details of. ICI should consider these as an alternative answer and should give you full marks on this. That is what my small request would be. But nevertheless, there is also a request which is coming up to me, people, that for all these kind of mistakes, should we be approaching ICI and asking them for a change in the answers? Unfortunately, people, we are a little too late for it. ICI generally has a practice to invite for suggestions on what kind of changes or what kind of mistakes are there in the question paper, and that was last announced to be 27th September, which means on 27th September is when you should have given the last suggestions for it. But let me be very honest, it does not matter. Like I'm telling you, people, I understand, yes, we made some mistakes, including me. I also made some mistakes, but if you realize, the quantum is not going to be material. The paper was manageable to the extent that you have already scored enough marks for clearing of the paper. Yes, at this stage, dwelling upon the fact that I'm getting 2 marks here, I'm losing another 2 marks in capital gains, probably ROR is something which I did not do right. Yes, you may end up losing 6 marks. I don't deny it. Rahul itself lost 6 marks when he reviewed the paper himself. But at the same time, Rahul is able to give that confidence that out of a 50 marks paper, if I'm losing 6 marks also, I am still enough getting 40 plus. I'm still enough getting 40 plus, which means I'm already passing. You already have IDT also with you, people, which means the chances of you failing just because of these things is not very critical. Understand this carefully. You are not to blame ICI just because a few things here and there go wrong, because that's human to happen. At the same time, I don't deny the fact that it's important for you to fetch those easy marks. My point is very simple. At this stage, it is neither in my hands nor in your hands to dwell upon things. If you want, we can definitely go and write some suggestions to ICI, but my understanding is if 27 September is already crossed, ICI has already released their answer keys and has given to the examiners for going and correcting the papers off. Iske baad, ICI is not going to make any kind of further recommendations on the papers, so which means anything which has to be done is already done. At this stage, the only thing you can do is you can go back, sit back and relax, enjoy what is happening on your holidays, and wait for the next 1 month for the results to come out. Until such time, dwelling upon this, focusing on things, starting to worry about things is not going to help you in any manner whatsoever, rather than putting you in a stress model. Yes, you are already done with the paper, you just need to wait and see what the results come out. So I would make a small request to all of you to stop worrying about this, enjoy what is happening. If you have group 2 preparations to do, continue with your group 2 preparations for Jan 26. If you think you have not attempted the papers well, start preparations for group 1 also for Jan 26, but please do not sit and dwell upon these small things. It may be important, but nothing can be done, and therefore it's worth ignoring at this stage. That is all the request which I'm going to make to all of you. Stop worrying about it. Are we clear? Yes? Perfect. That's all the small changes which I wanted to discuss with all of you people. I hope you are all having an amazing time in your exam leaves. If you have any things, you can always reach out to me and we'll be happy to discuss it together. Until such time, let me come back with another video discussing on a few other things for my Jan 2026 students. So for all my Jan 2026 students, please take this initiative, complete your preparations to the best extent possible. Go to the exam as if you're extremely confident on how the paper is going to look like, and this should be something which should be the last attempt for your CA inter examinations. Yes, I will leave you all with this video. Take care, everyone. I will see you all very, very soon. Have a nice day.